As war ended, one explorer raced west, convinced Central Asia was about to close forever. His plan spanned Afghanistan, Tibet, and Mongolia, but politics, illness, and invasion would reshape the expedition into something history never expected.
Hey, glad you're here. Welcome to the Himalayan Journals. Here on this channel, we bring to you real stories from century old field notes. We try to keep it simple and calm here. Think of it as a documented history of the Himalayas from the early 1900s, covering stories of indigenous wisdom, epic expeditions, and groundbreaking science passed on just as they were recorded. Subscribe, zone out, binge.
When the Second World War ended, Henning Haslund-Christensen turned once again toward Central Asia. He had already led Danish expeditions to Hylar and Chahar in 1936 and 1937, and to the Oret region in 1938 and 1939. Years spent in the Far East with Scandinavian explorers, including Sven Hedin, and his complete command of Mongolian had given him a clear conviction. Further exploration to the west was necessary, and it had to happen quickly. In June 1946, he warned that Asia might soon close itself to Europe again as it had many times before, and that ancient cultures would then disappear forever. His proposal for the Third Danish expedition to Central Asia was ambitious and precise. A first team would work in Afghanistan during 1948 and 1949, from Nuristan in the east to Herat in the west, under his personal leadership. A second team would set out from Sikkim, cross the Tibetan Plateau, and reach Wangye Fu in Alashan, where it would meet Haslund. Together, they would proceed towards the Nan Shan and the region west of the Etzengol to conduct anthropological and archaeological studies, including research among the Yellow Uyghurs. A third operation would take place in southwest Mongolia. The entire expedition was to conclude by 1953 or 1954. The plan was warmly received in Denmark. Funding posed no difficulty, and with the approval of the King of Denmark, the expedition was placed under royal patronage. In the autumn of 1947, Haslund arrived in Kabul with several Danish scientists and established headquarters there. Winter passed in preparation and negotiation with the Afghan authorities. In spring, Nuristan was entered, while Magister H. Seeger went to the Kafir borderland in Chitral. Haslund remained active between Kabul and the working parties. During August 1948, his health declined. He grew steadily weaker and was confined indoors. In the night of the 12th to the 13th of September, he died after a brief period of unconsciousness. He was buried in the Christian cemetery of Kabul beside Sir Aurel Stein. Though devastating, his death did not end the work. The board in Copenhagen instructed the members in Asia to continue, and by the end of 1949, they completed their tasks in Afghanistan. All returned to Denmark except Magister H. Seeger, who carried out anthropological research among the Lepchas and Boros in Sikkim and Assam, and reached Kalimpong early in 1950. I learned of Haslund's death while in New York preparing for the expedition. I wrote at once to Copenhagen, expressing my intention to continue. The reply, signed by H.R.H. Prince Axel, urged me to do so and to join Seeger in India. In January 1950, my wife and I arrived in Kalimpong. The atmosphere along the Himalayan frontier was tense. There was widespread talk of an impending Chinese occupation of Tibet. Given the circumstances, it seemed impractical to request permission to cross Tibet as originally planned. After consultation, I applied only for permission to visit Gyansa. The request, submitted in April, met with long delays. When I telegraphed Lhasa directly, the Tibetan Foreign Bureau replied that no application had reached them and later courteously asked me to postpone my journey. We remained in Kalimpong. Seeger left for Denmark in the spring of 1950. Dr. Karl Krebs was appointed leader and arrived briefly in India. But after concluding that Operation 2 was unlikely to proceed, he turned instead to work in the Siwalik Range, Lahul, Spiti, Rupshu, and Ladakh. He later returned to Denmark, leaving me with remaining funds and responsibility for further work. In November 1950, Chinese military forces entered Tibet. The Dalai Lama moved his government to Yatung in the Chumbi Valley. Tibetan officials and their families crossed into India and settled temporarily in Kalimpong, including the Dalai Lama's mother and siblings. Europeans resident in Tibet also departed, among them Heinrich Harre, Peter Aufschneider, and Reginald Fox. Refugees arrived even from China via Tibet, bringing with them rare personal histories. Kalimpong became an unexpected center of Himalayan research. We conducted interviews, collected artifacts and books for Danish institutions, and measured Tibetans during compulsory registration. Medical statistics were obtained from hospitals in Sikkim and Tibet. My long-standing interest in Tibetan polyandry was finally fulfilled through the study of Cha-Ma-Dung marriages. Travel permissions remained limited. We were allowed to visit Kathmandu in 1951 and the Gelep and Nathu passes in 1952. Other applications were refused. Interest in the abominable snowman arose, but requests for organized searches were denied. By 1954, our work was increasingly restricted. Operations north of the Himalayas had become impossible. Yet we were fortunate to have worked in Kalimpong at a moment when Tibet, denied to us geographically, came to us historically.